You're listening to Spark TV, where we bring you daily interviews with real women in business at all stages. I'm your host, Danielle Lewis, and I am so grateful to have you here. So good. Erin, welcome to Spark TV.
Hi, thank you.
I'm so excited to get you on a podcast because we've had like short, high level chats over the last couple of months. And so I'm so keen to dive in deeper into your story and share it with the Spark community. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me, Danielle.
So fun. Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
Amazing. Yeah, so my name is Erin and I am the founder of Launch with Erin. I am a messaging and launch strategist and conversion copywriter, and I help coaches 2 to 3 times their revenue through strategic launch funnels so they can fill their group programs and scale their business.
Oh my God, you have that pitch nailed. Because you're a words person, I
Yeah,
suspect.
that's it. That's it.
Oh my God. Isn't it wild though? Like, I feel like so many of us business owners actually struggle with the words. We all start these businesses because we have expertise in something or we're really passionate about solving a problem. But kind of when it comes to explaining what it is we do and who we serve, we get really like, oh, we do this, like we kind of get wishy-washy. But I guess that's the whole point of being a launch strategist, right? Is like get to the point, get the words out, get people buying what you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also because my clients are mostly coaches,
Mm.
they are the verbal people. They communicate through their voice, their ideas, getting them out, and then they come to write them, and it's just like all of a sudden they've got nothing. So
Yeah.
it really is true that you can be too close to your business. And so many of my clients will be like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to think of how to say that for like weeks, if not months now, and you've just nailed it in a second.
Yeah. And I think too, like when we're like solo operators, just sometimes talking to someone to get it out of your head, like having someone like you to sit down with and interpret what it is we think we're doing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. One of the biggest things I say to clients is we'll be on a strategy call and they're just reeling off all of these amazing things about their business, who they help, the problems they solve, but then they go to write it and they have nothing. And so my piece of feedback is always, and all of the listeners can do this as well, it's rewatch the conversations that you're having and the recordings of these calls because you are dropping all of these nuggets via your words. Now you just have to pull them out and take them as pieces of copy now.
Yeah, totally. And all these bloody recordings like transcribed now, like you
Mm.
can't get away from things being recorded and transcribed or like an AI bot attending your meeting these days.
Yeah, and I guess just yeah, in terms of AI as well, what makes you stand out now is having an
Mm,
authentic message and having
yes.
these carefully crafted marketing slang and lingo. We're all just so sick of it and caught onto it, and it doesn't sound good. And like those headlines are like the most powerful, ultimate this and that. It's like no one wants that. So
Yeah.
anything that you say conversationally, I always say is so much stronger than some AI marketing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's really wild. And so let's just dive into AI while we got on this tangent.
Yeah.
So what is your stance? Because I feel the same way. I love it. I'm not going to lie, I use it every day, but mostly for brainstorming, for getting myself out of my head, for kind of almost being that person to talk to when you don't have anyone to talk to. But the stuff it spits out, you've got to be so careful. Some of it's not factually correct. Some of it's boring as batshit. And, when you're on social media these days, it's just like all of the posts are exactly the same.
Hmm.
And you're so right. And also, people are talking about conversion rates being lower, opt ins being lower, people not attending webinars. It's like, yeah, I can understand that when it's like you're all a sea of the same. And I
See of
kind of feel like
sameness.
AI is to blame.
Yeah, I think it's to blame as well. But it also shows that I think it's a really good thing for the business owners that aren't going to use it because it gives them that automatic step up.
Yeah.
If you're going to invest time into your voice, your messaging, your copy, and not be this AI jargon that everyone else is using, that instantly makes you stand out better than anyone else. But
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I have tried. I also use AI every day, but that is more of like a brainstorming
Mm,
kind of dissecting transcripts, anything like that. But as soon as I
yeah.
try to use it for something creative, it zaps my creativity. I have nothing and then I can't get back on track. So my stance now is I always do any sort of first drafts, any ideas out first, use
Yep.
my own ideas. It's also it's I compare this as well to social media when you're scrolling for inspiration and live and you've got no inspiration and you just feel worse about yourself. That's
Mm,
how I think AI works as well, because you've let it zap anything original from you. So my recommendation is always just to do your own first drafts and then let AI boost it and help you from that.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you said two things that you mentioned about firstly, like being conversational. So the words you say when you're being conversational, kind of like, and I think that's how people want to feel, right? When they're reading your copy or they're reading your social posts or whatever, they actually want to feel like you are talking to them as like the individual who you are supposed to be solving the problem for. So I love that. And I love that you said, that is like the best way to stand out now is actually use your own voice, not AI's voice.
Yeah, just being yourself. It's why is it
Wild.
so much hard though, right? Like it
I
feels hard.
know.
Just be
I know,
yourself.
but then we're like totally tricky because I'm like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there.
Yeah. And you don't
Yeah.
realize either because you're just so swayed by all of the influence online, all of the people around you. I know for myself, and this is something I've overcome over the years, but being so many different people's voices, I really lost my own voice for a long
Mm,
time. And I had to really step back and be like, well, who even am I? How do I sound? Like, who am I when I'm
yeah.
not everybody else? And it is, you just get so caught up, and especially when you're looking up to people in your industry and competitors, and they're making more money than you. So then you want to sound like them to make more money, but then you end up sounding like a diluted version of them, and just the lesser
Yes.
than. And it really is hard. You just have to kind of tune out all of the noise and just be you.
Totally. And it's really interesting. We were on our virtual Vino for the Sparkies yesterday, and this kind of came up around, people using kind of, I guess, well, we were kind of ranting about dodgy marketing practices. But I feel like it's kind of lends the same thing, right? When you're showing up as yourself online, you attract the right people. And that's one of the things I love about Spark is I don't know how it's happened. I think because it's just me like being the chaotic mess that I am. It's just attracts awesome people and we all are kind of similar stages, similar ages, similar values, which is incredible. And I just think that is the power of using your own voice, using your own messaging, and really leaning into who you are, because otherwise you do tend to attract people that are almost for somebody else and they don't have great experiences. You get more refunds and all of those things. So even though it's scary, I think it's so valuable to actually show up as authentically as you can.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. It's another benefit because you get those dream clients that you're just obsessed with being around every day and it doesn't feel like work. But then when you are someone else, you're not attracting aligned people because you're also not being your most authentic
You're a
self.
robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it so much. So, how did you even get into this? Like, how did you become a launch strategist?
So I have followed many pivots over the years. I have been a digital nomad, full-time traveler my entire adult life,
Wow.
and I I also studied to be a paramedic during this time. So I had my big girl job for about 15 months, realized it didn't give me enough time for travel, and I was going to quit and travel for a couple of years.
Yeah, big girl jobs suck.
Yeah, I was like, don't know about this one.
Yeah, not for me.
We'll come back to it when I'm older.
Yeah.
I think it's been over 10 years now. But yeah, so during the time of my travel, I started a travel blog. That was my little dip into the
Mm,
online world and just online marketing. This was about back in 2017. I did that
cool.
for 3 years up until COVID hit. And then, as we know, there wasn't any travel. I was like, okay, now what do I want to do? So I started a virtual assistant business. And then that even showed me the online female entrepreneurial world, which I genuinely did not even know existed. And just by saying yes to opportunities, I quickly realized that with my blogging background, I loved writing. Copywriting was even better than blogging, and just kept pivoting and following yeses until I got into launch copywriting, which I was just obsessed with because as much as my values are travel and freedom, I couldn't believe that people were making and I got to help these people make their entire previous year's salary over a 10-day launch period. And as much
Crazy.
as my clients value time freedom, location freedom, lifestyle freedom, you can't have that without financial freedom. So it
Yeah.
all sort of circled back, and I got really obsessed with launches. And again, just keep saying yes, keep pivoting or expanding, I should say. And so now I really love the strategy side of it, the data side. I don't just do the copywriting. And I'm really leaning into heavily into the full launch funnel now and helping my clients go from pre-launch all the way through to post-launch and just, yeah, have these like 2 to 3 times their revenue with one signature program. They don't need to keep creating more offers. They don't need to grow their audience. It's just let's make this one program your what you're known for.
That is so cool. I do love that because I think people sometimes as well think they've got to keep adding and adding and adding when really if you can actually just focus on
Mhm.
one thing and make it incredible and nail that funnel and nail that launch and do it over and over again and get better
Yeah.
and better and better, then it's so much more valuable than like again diluting your message into all of these
hmm
different products. But for anyone listening who doesn't know, what actually is a lots launching? Like, what is that whole thing about?
Yeah, so I guess specifically with my clients with a launch, it will be if there's a you have an online course, a group coaching program, a mentorship, membership, mastermind, any of these. It could even be a one-to-one program, but I specifically specialize in group offers for clients. And it's when you've said, okay, now I have this program of all of my specialties, I'm going to launch it to my clients. And
Mm,
a big thing about launches is that most successful one-to-one businesses have been built through referrals, word of mouth, a few SEO, like some SEO, maybe some
mm,
random social media, but they don't know the messaging levers that need to be pulled to confidently convert. So it's what do you actually need to say to get people to sign up for your webinar? What do you need to get to say to get people to show up live to that webinar? And
mm.
then ultimately, what do you need to say to convert? And that is the launch process. And then afterwards, you've got the post launch, which is also a part that people really aren't doing well enough of, I would say, because a lot of it goes into emotion, being like, oh my God, I did terrible. But then I will look at their funnel. I'm like, well, you actually converted at 3%, which is really good. It's just
Mm.
there's a lot of unrealistic expectations, especially when you have a smaller audience or you're just getting started. And yeah, so that is the launch process.
Yeah, and I think too, there's so much noise online about, I made $1 billion in 17 seconds on my whatever, whether it be webinar or launch or course or whatever. So I think you do hold yourself to other people's standards. So I do love that you look at the data to actually say, no, this is actually industry standard where you're at. Now we improve or we get a bigger
Yeah.
audience or, whatever. So I think that's a really interesting point for people because it can be so disheartening when you're looking at other people online and the things that they're saying, which may or may not be true, and comparing yourself.
Yes. Yeah. It's data is honestly, it's one of the biggest things. And I start all of my projects looking at data and just
Yeah.
metrics and knowing because you need to have, if you're popping something in a GPS as to where you want to go, you can't get there without having your start point. You need to
Oh
have
my
that
God, I love
foundation.
this.
So start with the numbers, end with the
Yeah.
numbers, and just again, another thing is like people aren't overnight successes. Even if they look like an overnight success, they probably weren't. Even if it's a new business, they probably are a serial entrepreneur or something.
Yes.
It's the best way to learn. And I know people hate me saying this, but it's like if you have a failed launch, it's probably not the offer, it's your
Yeah.
messaging. And you just need to look at the numbers and keep going because it's going to be better to improve and optimize from a failed launch than to constantly be starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think, you are right. Like actually having that, this is where we're at, and knowing what to change, what to add in is just so much more valuable and has such a better outcome than starting from scratch and building a new product. I think sometimes it's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day of, I can't even remember who it was, but someone who I think of as super successful,
Hmm.
but they were sharing their, the first thing I put out was, 9 people listened to it. And I'm pretty sure my mom was one of them and what have you. And it is so easy to forget that we all have to start from zero. We all have to start from a failed launch or something that wasn't as successful as we thought it would be. Nobody comes into this just like all guns blazing, viral, millions of dollars. Like we all actually have to start at learning how it's
Yeah.
done.
Exactly, exactly. And I love those stories. I'm kind of addicted to people's like before like their origin story and how long it took them to be successful. I'm like, oh, I feel much better about myself now. But yeah, I even find all of the people that are so successful or the ones that have started a new business and are like, I made my first 6 figures in like 90 days or whatever it is. Like I hate these stories, but
Yes.
also I look into their actual backgrounds and they've had like 5 businesses. So
Yeah,
it's
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 it's not
really
90
deceptive.
days.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I know like when I first started my business, I was stuck in that comparison of everyone. It was like the
Mm.
10K months was my thing on Instagram. I think I'd tricked the algorithm
Yeah.
to only show me everyone making 10K months and 10K US. So I just was like brand new business owner and I'm like, I'm not making 10K months. I'm terrible. I'm bad at business. I'm so unsuccessful. And
Yeah.
then I remember I made my first 10K Australian dollars and I still was like, I'm unsuccessful. I couldn't even see my own success because I compared myself so much on Instagram to
Yeah.
these like revenue markers that who knows if they were even true or not. And yeah, it was, I know, that was one of my biggest mistakes I think I've done in business. Just the
Yeah, but it is
comparison.
such an interesting point. I don't think people talk about the fact that you have to define your own version of success, that you can't, well, you can pick other people's versions of success if you want, but what tends to happen is you're just chasing this elusive thing that, as we've said, may or may not be real. And then you kind of get there and realize that it doesn't make you happy. And you're like, oh, hang on a second. And then you have to go through this whole process of figuring out that you do have to actually define what success looks like for you and what kind of life you want to live and what kind of business you want to create.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think just having that I've one of the things I've been working on this year is I have a vision board as my laptop background. And
Yeah.
all year I have been pulling pieces off that I'm like, actually, I don't think that's what I want. I think that was influenced by someone else, society, Instagram, whatever it was. And it's taken me a whole year of being like, oh, wait, no. And it's very intentional actions of still not even realizing that these things aren't my own desires, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's so funny. I know. I'm like literally have my vision board in front of
Yeah.
me. But I was listening to this a manifestation thing. There's this woman that's running Denise Duffield Thomas. She's running like a
Mhm.
5-day series on manifestation. And yesterday was all about being specific. And it's literally so she's recorded, you can watch it by video, but she's put it on her podcast channel as well. So I was just listening to yesterday's episode. And even as she was saying the words be specific, I was in my mind going through all of these like versions of goals I have. And I was like, you don't even know what you're going for. Like, you don't even know what your goal is. How can you like be specific and put it out there if you don't even know what it is and it's not defined? So, yeah, I think it's very interesting that you've gone through that process of, okay, this is what I want, and then kind of refining it and kind of taking the time to figure out what is and isn't important to you because it's a whole process. I think we do really get swept up in all the things that people have and the shoulds. What should our life look like? So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's so important to actually sit down and be intentional. And we were talking about that as well on our Vino yesterday about getting clarity.
Yes.
Um, it's interesting that we landed here.
Yes.
Um, because I think it does take time, and that was one of the things we were talking about yesterday is how you go about getting clarity. And I think it's actually really difficult as a business owner sometimes because we are so trapped in our to-do lists, trapped in the shoulds, trapped in all of the, you know, need to pay for rent this month, you know, whatever it is that we're going through in that moment. So I'd love to talk to you about that, you know, how you go about getting clarity in your business. How have you gotten to the point where you're looking at the vision board and going, that's not really for me? Like, how does it work for you in your business?
Yeah, it's hard. I truly think just based on all of our things around us, Instagram, it's how do you tune out that noise? And for me, being in nature is really helpful. Going on a walk.
Mm.
I love, unfortunately in Australia, I don't really have it, but I'm such a big mountains hiker in the in the
Ah.
big trees. And as soon as I'm out in nature, I feel like I have all of the ideas. But I can definitely get that on a walk, just a normal walk, but not as in depth. So yeah, I find if I go on a walk, even if I put on any sort of just music, it doesn't have to be completely quiet. Even
Mm.
podcasts, weirdly enough, like I'm still getting like something going on. But as soon as I put on stuff and go out for a walk, my brain's like, okay, let's figure these things out. And but a big thing for me I've realized is I just have to tune out social media. I
Mm.
really don't scroll at all. And as soon as I do, I think I want things that
You
I don't
feel,
want.
yeah,
Yeah.
you feel the decline.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it's so interesting that that's what works for you. It plays so much into your life choices to be a digital nomad and travel the world and experience those things. How did you find out that that was kind of part of your business, you know, being able to run a business all over the world? Was it just from that initial wanting to travel and then loving it and building your business while you were traveling? Like, how did you figure out that digital nomad life was for you?
Yeah, so I having been a full-time traveler before I had the remote job, I really
Mm,
just loved traveling, but I would always pick up like backpacker jobs or jobs overseas. Like I was always starting at the bottom.
mm,
And this was in 2020. I'm like, okay, great. I have to stay still. I want a job that pays me while I travel.
mm.
So, and as having been a paramedic, I had zero remote transferable skills. So I'm like, okay,
Damn it.
I have to, if I want to work online, I have to teach myself the skills.
Mm,
And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know even about the female entrepreneurial world. So I didn't know what was out there, what my options were. So I really just dove in and followed interests and passions and just kept saying yes. But the more that I then started working online, the more I guess my reason, my why changed. I'm so passionate about the people I work with, and I very much take other people's energies as my own energy. So working with passionate women and impact-driven brands, it was just a high that I never got before. And I was like, oh my God, as soon as I'd get off the strategy call with someone that was so passionate, I could write their sales page in no time. Like,
yeah, like channel their voice.
yeah, absolutely. So
It's
again, mine's just been diving in and just following pivots and not doing a lot of thinking, just going.
I just love that though, because I think oftentimes people start businesses based on their skill, not on the life they want to live. And I just love that you've done it the opposite. You're like, actually, this is what I want my life to look like. How do I learn and dive in and explore different paths to get me there? I just think that's
Mm.
so cool.
Yeah, I actually was having a conversation with a friend this morning who wants to start an online business or make money online or something. And I gave him that exact piece of feedback. I was like, well, where do you want to go? Like, do you even want a
Yeah.
remote job? And you should start at the end of your goal or your vision of your life and reverse
Mm.
engineer like what will get you there.
Oh, I love that. And it's just such great advice. It's so easy to, yeah, just kind of start and, you know, almost, I find a lot of women create jobs for themselves. It's almost like they didn't like the job that they were working in, but that was what their skill was. So they end up building a business that's basically their
Mm,
job that they have, but now they have all these overheads of a business while still doing the job that they were doing. So I just love that you've kind of reversed it and said, let's think about what we want life to look like, and I will create a business around that. But then in the process, you've found your passion, you've found your
yeah.
people. I just think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I'm just so grateful that I have been that person to myself and led myself to this spot because I would never change any of it.
Yeah. And I also think amazing that it's not linear. Like, I love that you share that you have experimented, you've tried different things, you've tried different models, you've learnt, had no idea about this world and just dove straight in. And that's what's led you to find what you're excited about and passionate about, which I think is such a great lesson. I think people try and wait until they know exactly what to do. And I don't think I've been in business for 15 years and I still don't fucking know what I'm doing. So I don't think that ever happens.
Yep, I definitely feel
Oh, yes.
that.
Oh, so good. So what's next for you? What does 2026 hold?
Yeah, so I have been building a mentorship program. So the gap that I saw as a copywriter was that people would hire me in the hopes that it would solve all of their launch problems. Being like, okay,
Mm,
I have now invested in copywriting. I will magically have a six-figure offer. However, they didn't know how to look at the data. They didn't have
mm,
the messaging angles. And this is a really big thing. Even when I am working with clients, I can still only go off and build copy from what they tell me. So
mm,
now I definitely add a lot more strategy and messaging to my copywriting projects because I help them uncover what their audience actually needs to hear. And this is what AI cannot do as well, where it's like you can tell it to write an email, but if you don't know what the email needs to say, it's not going to
yeah.
convert or it won't work. So my mentorship is going to be a high touch 6 month program where I really take people from pre-launch all the way to post-launch. We go through every single thing. They get all of the copywriting templates with my like reviews, high touch support. I think accountability is such a big thing as well because I know so many people
Yes.
invest in courses and they don't finish them. So this is like they don't have a choice. They have to go through it because it's going to be small group high touch. And yeah, it's implementation. And I'm really excited about this because I know there is just such a gap in the market and it'll really just help people have these high converting launches and move from their one-to-one businesses into scalable group offers. So I'm very excited.
Oh my God, that is incredible. And I can just imagine the women listening right now who are like, what? I want a high converting launch. I want a scalable group of, so I just know that, and there's so many people that, jump on and that I have a conversation with that are just trying everything and just not quite getting there. And I just know it's when they have someone objective like you who has seen so many different people's data, seen what works and what doesn't work, and can be that objective person for them, like just how much impact it makes on a woman in business and, her ability to create bigger revenue, create more profit and live the life that they want. So I'm so
Yeah,
excited that we got to
exactly.
share that with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And I mean a big thing as well is that launches get this really like scary, overwhelming, stressful name. But I
Mm,
want to assure people that launches aren't like that. If you do them right, if you give yourself enough pre-launch runway so that you're not working crazy hours just to get everything done, they're not
yeah.
magic. They follow a very strategic, very heavily studied biopsychology journey that's full of conversion tactics. You just need to, once you learn it, you can't not
You
succeed at
can't
it.
not
It is,
know it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's why I love launch as well. And I love my job because it helps. I get to combine creativity and analytical. I get the best of both worlds. I really am just obsessed with it. And the people I work with, everything.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
You are amazing, Erin. Thank you so much for being here today. Now, I always love to wrap up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this one a lot lately, and it's if you want different results, you have to do something different. And I know it's so cliche, and I have heard this saying a million times over the years, right? But I've never, and I'm like, yeah, cool, different results, different things. But I've never really sat down and been like, am I doing something different until
Mm.
recently? And I'm like, no, like I'm kind of repeating the same patterns, even if it's slightly different. So this has been a really big thing that's been in my mind over the last few weeks. And I really am actively trying to do something different to get different results.
Oh my God, I love that so much. You are so spot on. I think anyone listening, they're probably going, oh, yeah, it's a little triggering. I was just literally
Yeah.
thinking about that in relation to the Spark grant period we've got going on right now. And I started with a goal. I'm like, have you done anything differently this time
Yeah.
around? So that's incredible advice for anyone listening. Thank you so much, Erin. You are amazing.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Danielle.
That wraps another episode of Spark TV. Shout out to Spark TV sponsor IP Australia for their amazing support of the Spark podcast and women in business. And if no one tells you today, you've got this.